Hello and welcome on air live. I'm just going to add in Ben and then we will get going. BRM. So I've just pinged them in right now. Hopefully you'll get on board. Hey Junior, thanks for jumping on, man. Just while Ben comes on, I think this is the first time Ben's jumped on live with somebody else, so it might take him a little while. We're going to be talking all things prep, and we're going to be talking about first timers advice, time frames that you need to give yourself, what's the difference in commitment level, sacrifices to be made, like good stage prep versus good condition versus stage condition, and then considerations to take into account. We've also got a couple of questions that we're going to go through. So I'll share all the way. Are you going to make it? There we go. Accept. See if we can get on. Dude, what's happening?
Are we good?
How are we?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Yourself?
Better than you, mate, in peak week, but
I'm feeling alright. Food's up now, so got a bit more energy.
Carbing up, or you still early stages?
You are, sorry?
Have you got carbs in yet? Are you still early stages?
Yeah, mate. We've been eating like 500 grams carbs the last few days.
Oh,
so yeah, we're just going off day by day. So my weight's been increasing the last four days with just 500. So we don't need to be aggressive. We're just taking it day by day. So I've gone up like a pound each day. So in a good spot. Conditions holding as well. So yeah.
Oh, good. Are you water manipulating throughout this peak, or are you not bothering? Some do, some don't.
We might do towards the end. It depends if we need to kind of wash off anything. But yeah, the goal is we've got a kind of look that we were happy with like a good few weeks ago in terms of like around 87 kilos. Obviously not lean enough at that point, but in terms of fullness, that's where we were at. So I was about 84, just over 84 today, and we want to get up towards like 87 around show day with holding the condition. So
no, good.
That's the goal.
Super pumped.
Yeah,
super pumped. Good. Cheers for jumping on, man. I think this one's probably been a long time coming.
Yeah, sure.
So I think before you jumped on, I ran through what we were probably going to cover, like advice for first timers, like time frames, and then considerations for like how long to give yourself, events, holidays and stuff if you got, and then like the commitment level, the difference between getting in shape and then getting show ready. And then we've got a couple of questions as well, just off the chat box, so we can answer them a little bit later on as well. So I think obviously you're deep in prep now. You are like a week away. Is it this Saturday or you Sunday show?
Sunday.
So what advice would you give to first timers like wanting to get into competing?
So the first timers, the advice I'd give is don't just dive into a prep would be the first one. Actually spend time building muscle is the first thing, which is something I didn't do the first time I competed. I needed to spend time building muscle, but then I also dived straight into a prep, and I'd strongly not recommend it. It's not what I do with someone. What I would do is first recommend someone do a photo shoot prep to see if they actually can stick it out. Now you're not gonna get exactly the same experience as a contest prep, because you've got to go, a good like maybe 4 or 5 weeks further than you would a photo shoot prep. but you're
definitely.
going to kind of get that experience of what it's like. Because when I dived into my first prep, it was like nothing I've ever experienced, and it was savage. So yeah, actually going through a photo shoot prep and kind of getting close to that condition is something I definitely recommend. Like, I would not put someone through a prep unless they'd actually done a serious diet.
Yeah, it's funny because I did exactly the same for my first shoot, and it was like war and peace, just trying to get in condition. Like,
Horrendous, mate.
it was like the longest I've ever done in my life.
On my first prep, I was eating 1,400 calories and doing 80 minutes of cardio a day, simply because I just didn't have enough muscle. So in order to get lean enough, you're going to have to do a lot of output, because you're just not heavy enough to, the amount of calories you burn when you're really light is really low.
Yeah,
so you're gonna
exactly. Your basal metabolic rate's nothing,
yeah.
isn't it, in comparison?
It's similar to, like, with me coaching Cleo now. She's a lighter female. What she burns during cardio and steps is going to be really low. So we ended up the last week 50 minutes of cardio a day and doing 14,000 steps, because you're not heavy enough. You have to do that. So spending time building muscle is key for that reason, but also because you don't want to look small on stage. You put yourself through a lot, and you don't want to look small on stage. So
no. And what I found as well, because I knew I wasn't going to be as big on stage, I had to really dial in condition, which then makes it even harder because you've got to diet even longer, and it's just ruins your hormonal profile, doesn't it, as well, for coming back out the other way.
100%.
Yeah. Funny, I'd advise exactly the same. Go for a photo shoot and then see if you actually enjoy the process. If it's something you want to replicate and go even further, reverse out of the photo shoot and then pick a show down the line.
100%.
Yeah. So what did you end up with the first show that you did? Do you remember your starting metrics and how you finished?
I can't remember, but I didn't actually lose that much weight. I lost a lot of body fat, but I didn't lose that much. Saying that, I know I started my prep like 90, maybe 90 kilos. I finished about 82, I want to say.
Yeah. That's not that much, to be fair, considering.
No.
I went from... So how tall are you now? Well, obviously, you're not going to get any fucking taller, are you?
5'10".
5'10", yeah. I'm 5'9" on a good day. So I started at 90 and ended up 79.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was doing under 80s.
But that's
bodybuilding.
Something that I'd say to people as well, is that you've got a lot more than you think to lose.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
with this prep now, like, I've definitely made improvements, right? And the scale weight can really kind of mess with your head, but I'm pretty close now weight-wise to what I was last prep. And I finished my off-season at 105, so I've lost about 20 kilos plus. So people who dieted down before and are thinking about doing this, and they're like, oh, I haven't got that much to lose. You've got a lot of weight to lose. Like, to get in show condition, there's a lot of weight to come off.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like, I finished last year at 105, and then I'm currently on 93. And you think, wow, so you look vaguely different.
Yeah.
But it's the last 10 kilos,
the
last 5 that make all the difference, isn't it? So that's a good bit of advice, actually, especially for time frames. I always find guys don't think they need to lose as much as they actually do, and then say, "Oh well, I'll do like
everything cleaner they are."
Yeah, exactly. I tend to go the other way. I'm like, I'm fucking way after my first prep. I'm like, I need to lose at least 20 kilos. I've got.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Once you get stage lean, you lose reality of what lean is.
Yeah, exactly. It's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of guys should probably add 6 weeks to what they think they should diet for.
Yeah, 100%.
Easy, isn't it?
Because you've got to remember as well, you want to be ready like 2 weeks early. You're not dieting in the last week, so you've got to give yourself a lot of time to actually get to that point. Because the last thing you want is to be dieting and chasing your tail the last week.
No, exactly. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people go wrong as well, especially for condition. They diet all the way up to the show, and then they can't wash out that fatigue. They can't dry up. The hormonal profile is still all over the show. Cortisol levels are really high, and then they just blur out, don't they?
Yeah. Well, if we look at like this prep now, when I started to increase my food, I just continued to drop weight because I was so fatigued. My body was responding. And only the last few days now, my body weight started to pick up and I'm starting to fill out.
Is that why? Because did you start on lower than 500 grams of carbs a day?
We had a couple of high days. So we had like 650s and my weight dropped.
Yeah.
But then the goal is now to obviously linear carb load throughout the week.
Yeah.
So look to increasing day by day when we need. But like, you know, at the moment we don't need to because my body weight's increasing. So we're not just going to push food in for the sake of it. Because obviously we're trying to find that balance between staying lean and getting fuller, which is difficult.
And you don't want to spill either, do you? You don't want to start spilling with water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what would you say? So how long has your prep been this time around?
This one was relatively short. So I think I've done like 13 or 14 weeks. Yeah. But we kind of approached my last bit of my off season a little bit differently because we got to a point in off season where I was like, we weren't seeing good composition changes, of just getting fatter basically. Yeah. And my performance was dropping. So we actually had to pull back. And then when we started to push up again, we let my performance dictate like what we were doing with food rather than just trying to push body weight up. So I stayed relatively lean towards the back end of my off season, and that allowed us to have a shorter prep. Now, I'd probably prefer a shorter prep if I'm honest with you, but shorter preps, I don't know, like it's going to hit whatever you do. So I kind of like that in between maybe 16 to 20 weeks is a good point for me. I'd say with prep and so on.
I'd say that's good as well. And I also think what you've done as well is probably a good bit of advice for first timers. Don't just go crazy on your bulk and get fat. Yeah. You know, don't just think, oh, I'm going to pile on a load of mass.
So that's something I tie into someone's timeline as well, is like a pre-prep phase. Because, you know, in off season, things can get a little bit loose and you're not doing your cardio, you're not doing your steps. Your food isn't kind of as consistent as it should be. So I like to give people like a 4-week pre-prep phase where we start to build the routines and the habits we need. So like foods at a maintenance level, we bring in like cardio, like maybe 4 times 20 a week, just to kind of build that routine in, make sure our steps are actually locked in, make sure we're tracking food properly. But then that 4 weeks also serves as a purpose because, you know, if you go straight from your off season to diet and done, you're going to kind of potentially lose the fresh muscle you built. But what I've also seen it with people as well is that when you go from a peak bulk to just dropping food, you have this period where nothing happens, like no scale weight happens. So it just allows us to kind of wash off that fatigue from the off season, hold for 4 weeks, build the routines, solidify the new muscle, and then we get into prep, and it's like a seamless transition. Yeah. And when you make that initial change, we start to see drops rather than just waiting like what's happening.
Yeah, it's almost like a consolidation phase, isn't it? It's like just recomping, building habits, maintaining what you've already got for a prolonged period, get to a nice steady stable position instead of driving calories, driving, you know, mass fatigue. Yeah. Even though a lot of people think, well, I'm taking in loads of calories, I'm not going to create that much fatigue. You're still shifting 3 times the weight that you might potentially be able to do on prep, you know. Yeah. So a lot of people go, like you say, do that full 180 and then just struggle even further because, again, hormonal profiles all messed up, fatigue levels are real high. But yeah, no, I agree with that as well, definitely. What would you say with regards to the difference in commitment level with prep and a photo shoot? So training wise and
it's difficult. I mean, you know, like the training in an ideal world as a coach, someone doing a photo shoot would do the same commitment as a prep. But you know, I'm a realist, and you know, I've got guys doing photo shoots at the moment, and that's not going to happen, and I don't expect them to, because when you do a prep, like a show prep, it becomes your life, and it has to. If you're committing to stepping on stage, it has to become your life. But you know, in reality, there's I've got guys on photo shoot preps who've got families. They, you know, they do family things. They go out for food. They got birthdays, and you have to accept that, and we can manage that on a photo shoot prep as best as possible, because you're not getting in. You know, I like my guys to get in photo shoot prep peeled, but you know, we've got to do the best situation. Whereas in a competition prep, as I said, if you're committing to going on stage, there is no, you know, going out for meals. There is no, if it's your birthday, you're not going out for food. There, you know, it's a full commitment, and it's just something you have to accept.
You get to put a candle in your chicken and rice, don't you? That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the photo shoot prep, you can get away with.
Yeah.
You can get away with a lot more, can't you? It's, I mean,
yeah, for sure.
like you say,
At the end of
once
the
you,
day,
I
you're
think that's
standing
why
there
it's
on
good
photos.
to.
Yeah, you're at the end of the day with the photo prep, you're standing there in photos by yourself.
Yeah.
And it's up to you how lean you want to get. Whereas when you stand on stage, you're being compared to other people.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's good for guys that are thinking about competing to potentially do a photo shoot prep first, because they can kind of gauge how hard they want to push that photo shoot prep in consideration for a prep later on. And if they enjoy the process and they can really drive into it and get in great shape and they can make the sacrifice, then I think it's a good stepping stone for moving on into shows, isn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
So how would you manage? So say on people that are prepping and say they've got a holiday or an event, how would you manage that?
In terms of a photo shoot prep or a
say you were on a comp prep and there was an unavoidable event.
Well, like, so for example, if I think back to last year, I went to someone's barbecue birthday party, and I took food myself, because that's how it has to be. You know, you can't be like, oh yeah, I'll fit a sausage in. No, you know, not at all. That's not happening. Now with a photo shoot prep, you can manage these things. You know, like I said, we can be a little bit looser. We can put strategies in place in terms of calorie banking throughout the day. But you're not doing that you're not doing that in a show.
Yeah, not for prep.
No.
I use calorie banking for a lot of the guys that do photo shoots, because they always want to do it midsummer and they always want to go to 1,000 barbecues or there's birthdays or events or something. It's like you're going to eat nothing all week to be able to go and do this.
And that's the big consideration you're going to make. You know, like, you got to plan it around. You can't have a holiday during a photo shoot, perhaps. You know, so you got to plan it around. If you have events, you got to look: is the time right for you? Is your work really stressful? Do you know what I mean? So you've actually got to look at, is the time right for you if you're going to do a show prep?
Yeah, I think that's key, isn't it? I think forward planning, and like you do, you plan out the whole phase, don't you? So I've got like a timeline calendar as well, like a full 12 months. And I know as prep coaches, it's important for us to get through to clients that these are the specific phases at these particular times. There's no deviation, because if we mess up here, it's going to affect later on down the line, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So with regards to first times and advice, one of the questions we actually got was, how do you know what category you should compete in?
I think it's just looking at looking at maybe the people that compete already. So looking at, men's physique, looking at classic and what they actually look like. So like, and how much muscle you've got and how much time you've got to build that muscle. So like, men's physique's always a good one to start with, because it is a lower leveled muscle, although the guys at the moment are massive, but you've got first time shows. But I know for me with classic, I haven't got the shape. I haven't got the kind of long, narrow torso. In men's physique, I can get away with hiding my waist, but I haven't got that, and I haven't even got the musculature to do, physique or any classes above. So it's looking at comparing. You could look at first timer shows and who actually won them shows and compare, am I actually looking like that? But you get a coach. It's a coach is going to advise you on what is best for you.
I always tell my guys to go to a couple of shows as well.
Yeah.
Because and don't just go to the same federation. Go and look at a couple of PCA shows, 2Bro shows, UKBFF NABA. Go and experience what show day has to offer, not just all the vendors and cookies and shit that they end up selling in the foyer.
Yeah.
But go and take note of like how big you are next to the guys and like what you actually think you'll fit into, because a lot of the time guys will look on Instagram and say, yeah, I could do that, and then they're nowhere near, like that perception isn't close enough.
Yeah.
You know, they like I say, they've all got more body fat to lose than they actually realise, and then they end up being 2 categories lower. So one of the other questions we were asked was, what are the most important metrics when prepping someone? So what would you say is the most important?
You've got to track everything, like absolutely everything. So your body weight, you know, your measurements, your visuals, your sleep is extremely important. My sleep's terrible. There's not a lot I can do about it. Your digestion, your training performance is a key one. So training performance is a key indicator of, are you retaining muscle or not. So, you know, if your performance is seriously dropping very early on in prep, especially, it's a sign that you need to reduce your sets, or you need to kind of maybe have a pullback in terms of having a refeed or a deload. Training performance is a really, really strong indicator. Now, what you've got to understand is, deeper into prep, you go like 2 or 3 weeks out, my strength's shocking. It's not there, and it's going to happen. You're going to have to accept it. But yeah, training performance is a really important one indeed.
Yeah, I think if you're coming out the gate too hot and you're fatiguing 2 weeks in, that stimulus to fatigue ratio just isn't worth it, is it? And like I say, throughout the whole prep, you're just accumulating fatigue to a point where you're making those considerations and having to change out exercises. I mean, I bet you're only doing a couple of heavy sets now, or were last week. And then
so I think
increasing the volume.
I think a big mistake people make is changing their training from off season to prep.
Yeah.
So thinking they have to do anything different. My training split stayed the same from my off season all the way through my prep, because what built the muscle will keep the muscle. You don't need to start doing high rep pump sets. You need to keep it the same and see if you are actually maintaining or progressing your lifts, or actually regressing. So if you change all your training at the start of a prep, when you finish your off season, how are you meant to know?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people just start shotgunning it when it comes to prep. It's like, oh, the workouts become calorie burning exercises rather than,
and they shouldn't be,
mass maintenance exercises, you know. And like you say, what builds a muscle maintains the muscle. And it's only after a prolonged period of time where performance does start to dip, where you can start looking at that stimulus fatigue ratio and start dipping out of a few sets, maybe manipulating the exercises slightly. I'm a big proponent of obviously only changing once performance starts to dip. And then maybe looking at my cumulative volume for the session and maintaining that as well throughout. I don't know if you track cumulative volume.
I don't track cumulative volume. It's more just a logbook, how it's progressing from week to week. I don't really look at total volume. It's more week to week, really. Yeah.
No, definitely. I think you're still trying to maintain progressive overload to a certain extent, aren't you? And you're not just trying to burn those calories.
Yeah, and mindset is a big thing when it comes to it. Like, I see it happen all the time. I drop someone's calories and they start telling themselves how hard it is. They're weak in the gym, they're tired. If you go in that mindset, you're going to be weak. Like, you can still maintain, you can still progress. Like, you know, I've got boys in a photo shoot prep now, you know, they're 10 weeks in, 10 kilos down, and they're still progressing. It all comes down to a mindset when you come into the gym. Like, if you're going to tell yourself it's hard, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. At the end of the day, especially early on in prep, you're calorying the calories to fuel the workouts anyway.
Yeah.
You know, you're fueling efficiently. If your macros are balanced, then realistically, you've got everything there that you need to fuel those workouts. You might just need longer rest periods.
Yeah. Sure.
Until you get to where you are, and you're not making that anyway.
Nothing works.
Just slap slapping yourself to try and get a pump.
Can't get a pump to save my life.
Not even on 500 grams of carbs.
I had 3 servings of pump the other day and I couldn't get a pump. But no, it's the pump's coming back now for sure. It's coming back now.
So which show are you doing this weekend?
Two Bros show. So I'm doing that regional.
Which
and
one?
then
Whereabouts? Which
Cardiff.
one is it? Oh yeah.
So one in Cardiff, and then a few days later I fly to Portugal for Amateur Olympia.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
How
are you going to manage the flight and everything?
So that's the reason we're flying out on the Wednesday. Just allows time to kind of get into a routine, wash off any water from the flight, and settle into it essentially. But I'm not actually sure how we're going to do the peak for the next one. So we were thinking about doing a fat load for this one, but I can't get any flatter, so we just done a linear carb load. And then we'll see kind of where we're at after the show then, whether I need to wash off any water or anything like that. Maybe a case of going to pro fats, but we're not sure until it actually happens.
You never know until you actually get the flight, do you? And then assess from there.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point for guys that are thinking about competing as well. You never quite know how that peak week's going to go until you're there, do you?
No. And you like that's something you're going to have to look at as well, is that, I'm going to be checking in 3 times a week with my coach now, 3 times a day. So it really is like a meal to meal basis. And like that's another thing, is that you don't know what you're eating until that day. So it's very like, if you've got a coach, it's out of your control. You don't know what you're doing until each and every day. And you've got to be able to adapt very easily to it. Oh, I can't get food. Well, you need food ready to make sure you can. Yeah.
It moves from a very exact science for the first earlier stages into a very experimental science, doesn't it?
Yeah. Let's see what happens.
I've always found, because I've had peak weeks where I've struggled to carb up. I've like pushing up to like 800 grams of carbs, and I'm just flat as anything, and I couldn't do anything. And then I've had others where I've gone too far the other way, and I've spilled, and I've been like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
So every peak week is different, isn't it?
Certainly is, yeah.
Will this be the first time at the Amateur Olympia for you?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
First time prepping with peaking with a flight as well.
Yeah.
Good luck, man.
Be interesting.
Yeah. Getting on the plane with loads of different white powders.
I'm taking a suitcase just for cream and rice.
I don't blame you, to be honest. Is that what you've been using to carb up on?
Pretty much. I've just kept the same 5 meals every day, really. And that's something that you need to do as well, is that people will start adding food back. I've had food low for quite a long time. And then we add food in, and I could be like, oh, let's have this and this and this and this. And then it messes with your digestion. It's really important to keep your waist tight. And if you can go like, your food focus be super high, and you're going to be wanting all these different things. But it's super important you keep your food the same, and just keep, it's only a couple of weeks now. Like, I need to keep my food the same, regardless of if I'm craving anything. I just need to keep it the same to make sure we can keep things consistent and predictable.
Yeah. Your body's become a cream of rice digesting machine, hasn't it?
Yeah,
so
I just feel
by introducing bagels or like oats.
So I've had select food groups that I know work for me. So, like I'm kind of going, my first meal is oats, my second meal cream of rice, and then I know that I digest bread and potato as well. So I keep with that. Chicken and rice, and then another cream of rice. So I know, it's just keeping it very, you basically want to have the same food as you have done all the way throughout prep. Yeah.
That's the way that I've always done it.
People start adding in cookies and all this shit. Yeah, you don't know how it's going to digest. Like, did you eat a burger 13 weeks out? No. So how do you know how your body's going to respond to a burger 1 week out? When your body's at the place where it's most fragile and responsive. Yeah,
exactly. That brings us into something nicely as well. Advice for guys thinking about doing shows and photo shoots or whatever. Refeeds. What's your stance on refeeds versus cheat meals.
Refeeds
So for
all day
me,
long.
yeah, I'd be increase the volumes of what you've already been eating.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, like, if I said to someone, there's two reasons for this. Like, if I said to someone, go and have an off plan, they're probably going to have more than what I've already told them. But from personal experience from my last prep as well, I found that when I was given a burger, it made me want other shit more.
Yeah.
And what we're looking to do with a refeed is what drives performance: carbohydrates. So if we're smashing ourselves full of loads of fat from a pizza or something, we're not really filling the muscle out, are we? So it's a case of, your refeed should come from higher carbohydrates and just more of what you're already having. And that, again, when you give someone a refeed, they're like, oh, I can have this and this and this. And it's just like, no, it's there for a purpose. And that's what you need to understand, is that, like, with bodybuilding, it's not there for it. Like, you might enjoy bodybuilding, but the refeed is there not for enjoyment. It's there for a purpose of filling you back up and driving performance.
Yeah. If you want an off-plan meal, wait till off season.
Yeah.
If you're 5 guys, wait till December. But that's an important point, isn't it? Like, that refeed is there for a purpose. It's not just for you to go and binge. It's for a glycogen reload. It's to wash away the fatigue and to help you perform better in the gym, not to make you feel worse by your body then having to digest a load of trans fats and just feel bloated and horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's one of the things that I got wrong in the earlier stages of my first prep. I was eating whatever I wanted for like my first 4 or 5 refeeds, and after it I couldn't stand the digestive discomfort. So I just had more of what I was having, and everything just flowed a lot more smoothly.
The thing you need to realize is, when you get to that place where you're lean and to the point where you're ready for refeeds, whatever you have isn't going to fill you. It's not going to fill you. Like, when you're lean, your hunger signal levels are all over the place. You could eat absolutely anything you wanted and it's not going to fill you. So just eat more of what you're already having and use it for the purpose that it's there, to actually give you a benefit of washing off fatigue, picking back up energy, driving performance. Yeah.
Do you keep red meats in for a period of your diet?
Red meats, they're in. Like, it's the same. Like, if you've been eating it all the way through, carry on eating it.
Yeah. I like to keep my protein sources the same. Again, previously I've moved into more fish-based and white meats, lean meat options, protein sources, but like, keeping red meat in for me just works better. I stay fuller and I feel a lot better off it as well. But again, for me, I love red meat, so that would be my refeed meal. So I'd have a bigger steak, slightly bigger steak, and then I'd just mass load on whatever carb source that I would be having with that. Potatoes probably, but nobody can eat 500 grams, 600, 700 grams of raw weight potato and say that it isn't good.
Yeah, that's what my refeeds were like. I was eating a kilo of, when I had 650 carb, I had a kilo of potatoes every day.
Nice. The mountain of spuds. Oh, banging, man, banging. You got anything that you want to raise? Any sort of questions, or any questions you got asked, or anything that you get asked quite a lot?
I think the last thing to speak about would be like the post-show phase, because it's something that I found extremely difficult on my first ever time. And again, this is one for like real first timers to get to grips with, is that you can put yourself in a really bad place when you're that lean. You're not. People talk about rebounds. You're not in a good place to gain muscle. You're in a highly fatigued place, but you're in a really good place to gain body fat. And I ate like an absolute dickhead for 4 days, and I gained 8 kilos in 4 days. So not only is that terrible for your health, like my water retention, my face on the 4th day was horrendous, but like body confidence wise as well, I got myself into a really bad place where I was binging because I ate like a dickhead for 4 days, but then I was trying to undo that by doing HIIT. going into the gym, smashed myself. And after a prep, you're in a highly fatigued place. You need to start recovering, and you need to wash off that fatigue, not be eating loads of shit food and then like trying to hammer yourself with more cardio. So
kind of cancel out
the
poor diet with mass amounts of high intensity exercise is just going to drive you deeper into that hole, isn't it?
So I've just actually kind of gone through this with my guys doing a photo shoot prep at the moment, because it's the first time they've done anything like this, and you can see already they're starting to get food focused, and it's not a good place to be. So the first thing you need to remember is that food is always going to be there. So with the photo shoot prep guys now, we're going to go and have an off plan straight after the shoot. But then the next day, then I'm going to be on them and making sure getting back to plan. So the first thing is stay with your coach, because you will not manage the post show well.
No.
So you can have that off plan as soon as you finish your show, your shoot, and then you need to get back to plan and communicate well with your coach. And then you need to understand that food's always going to be there. The Nando's isn't closing the day after you do your prep. So what I would recommend doing is obviously having that off plan straight after the shoot, which is fine, relax and enjoy, but then getting back to plan the next day with talking to your coach. And then when it comes to off plans, have them planned in, like have it planned in once a week. Think how you'd eat on a normal basis. You're not going out for food every single day when in normal life. So have it planned in once a week. That's one really important part. But then the second really important part is don't start hoarding food, because you'll say like, oh, I'll just pick on it here and there and not snack on it. If it's in your house, you're going to eat it.
You're going to eat it. And you'll eat it all at once as well.
Yeah. I've done it. So don't start going to the shop and start, hoarding Easter eggs and cookies and shit like that. Don't have it in your house, because you will have it. You will eat it. And I said,
for me, it was chocolate hobnobs, and I would have like a cup of tea with a whole packet of chocolate hobnobs, and I think I'd only have one, and I'd just eat a whole packet. I'd be like, that's 1,800 calories gone.
Yeah. After the shoot, I had 6 donuts on the way to having a pizza. So this is like post show this time is something I'm really determined to manage well, because I didn't last time. And as I said, it's not only bad for body confidence, but if you want to then go into a growth phase and have a successful growth phase, you're really doing yourself over, because you're going to gain body fat really quickly. Like I said, 8 kilos in 4 days is what I did, which is a huge amount.
You need that rebounding process is something that should be avoided at all costs, really, isn't it? You should be reverse dieting out, managing your hormone levels, washing away the fatigue, reducing cortisol, up-regulating your androgens again, because they're on the floor anyway, because you're that fatigued, and getting up to a point where within the first sort of 18 to 25 days, you're back as a minimum at TDE. Unless you've got shows coming again and you're going back down like you have, you've gone back into a prep phase.
The last thing you want to do is, after you've done a 16-20 week prep, is gain 10 kilos in 7 days and then have to go back into a diet, because you can't start a growth phase from a fat point.
No.
Because you'll just have to diet very, very soon. So that is really tough. But the biggest advice I can give for like a first timer after they finish a show or a photo shoot is stay with your coach. Don't think you can manage well, because you will not manage it well.
No,
guaranteed.
No. Head rolls off straight away, doesn't it? You think, well, I'm bulking now, it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's one of the phrases that I hate now. I don't use it at all. We don't go into a bulking phase. We go into a massing phase, a lean massing phase. Yeah. We're driving performance in physique and in the gym. I think the dirty bulk is dead, isn't it? Like, nobody's got the gym. Like, Lee Priest used to do it really well, didn't he? I don't know if you were ever a Lee Priest fan, but he used to eat whatever he wanted in the off season, and then seemed to get into incredible shape. But nobody else is Lee Priest.
No. And like the food you eat, they will really dictate how you perform and how you feel as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, good. No, good point to cover that, mate. The post show. I think maybe if we jump on again, we can talk training considerations and what sort of exercise selection. I think that's good for a first one.
Enjoy that.
Hopefully everybody that's watched has taken something from that. I'm glad we got to answer some questions for the guys.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Does this get saved as well?
Yeah. So I can download it and I'll send it.
Happy days.
I'll drop it into a drive folder and then we'll just share the folder.
Yeah. All right, sweet. Happy days.
Right, guys, if you've been watching, please go and, or if you're watching after the fact, please go and follow Ben, follow me, and then if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to either of us. And if you are thinking about competing, definitely follow the advice. If you're thinking about doing a photo shoot leading up to a show, reach out to Ben and myself and ask all the right questions. There's no silly ones. Just ask as much and gather as much information as possible, and then obviously we can guide you as easily as we can and get you in the right place. But yeah, cheers Ben for jumping on.
All right, bro.
And we'll do it again.
Yeah, for sure, mate.
Good luck for this week as well.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers. Ciao.
Yeah.